Welcome to the first episode of the ISO podcast. I'm your host, Chuck Duru, and on today's podcast we had Kofi Josephs of the Worcester Wolves, also GB International. We had a really good conversation where we, delved into his career to date, starting from his time as a junior at Reading Rockets all the way up to playing in the BBL for Worcester Wolves. We also delved into his international experience, playing for GB and playing for England in the Commonwealth Games, and he was able to give a lot of insight into his career, some of the struggles he faced, both mentally and physically, and we also had a nice, good conversation about some of the stuff he gets up to off the court. So yeah, it was a really good conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Please like, subscribe, share. I hope you enjoy it. Kofi, how's it going, man?
What's going on, bro? You telling me?
Yeah, nothing, man. Just here trying to survive in this lockdown, How you been keeping? Keep yourself busy and stuff?
I've been good, man. I've been good. This lockdown's giving me a chance to just dive into all the other stuff that I enjoy doing. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Obviously still working out and stuff, but
yeah,
it's just giving me a free mind to just do the other creative stuff.
Yeah, no, I hear that, man. I hear that. I think I'm the same. Like, I've been sort of trying to get into other stuff, stuff I used to do, like hobbies I used to have back in the day and stuff, and just really use the time and trying to do other stuff as well, man. But yeah, man. Thanks for coming on to today's episode. Let's start with this season. Quite a weird one, really, isn't it? With the whole early shutdown of the season. But how would you say your season went?
I'd say the season went pretty well, to be honest. We had the new group of guys, new coach. It was a new everything. Obviously, coach wanted to revamp the whole club because of what a mess it was last year.
Yeah.
Like the year before.
Yeah.
So it was just new. We had new players. Just new everything, really. And it was kind of like a fresh start. And we had a lot of young guys and players that had to prove. Our coach had a lot to prove. So we all had that chip on our shoulder, which was cool.
Yeah.
I think that's why we did so well.
Yeah. I mean, for your as a club, I mean, Worcester had a pretty good season. Getting to winning the BBL Cup final. What was that like then for you, especially seeing as you're from Birmingham, like playing in front of what was a home crowd really for you? Talk to me about that.
That was mad, because before the season started, I said, and it was right before I signed at Worcester, I was like, it'd be sick if I won the BBL Cup. Obviously, the other stuff's cool and that, like the O2 down in London, the one up in Glasgow is cool, but because I'm from Birmingham and we don't have a team there and I haven't played at home in a while, that would be the one that I wanted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when the season started, we was like practicing and playing, and in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know if I want to set that goal because if I don't get it, I'm gonna be disappointed.
Yeah.
But then we kept sticking with it. We lost a couple of games, but we still had a chance. And then we got like the toughest run. We got like Newcastle, then we had Leicester, and obviously the Leicester series, we had to play them home and away. We lost at home, and we had injuries, and it was like, let's go down to Leicester and just see what happens before we make it to the final. And then we did all that, and then we were just like, we got to play Bristol. We don't like Bristol. They don't like us. We played 20 times already.
Yeah.
But we don't like the man so much that we'll play them in the car park. You get me? Like,
yeah.
People.
Yeah.
We just don't like you, man.
Yeah.
So we'll beat you anywhere. Do you know what I mean? And the last time we played them, I think we lost. So this was one that we just wanted to embarrass them, to be honest. And
yeah,
it was just great that we got to win the cup at the same time.
Yeah. See, I never knew about there was a rivalry between Bristol and Worcester. I mean, I think that's I think that's one of the things of the BBL. I think everybody kind of knows about the Newcastle, Leicester, a few of the other rivalries, but I never knew that Bristol and Worcester had animosity. And I think one, it makes great entertainment to know about more of the rivalries in the BBL. You know what I mean? Whether that's players, whether that's teams. I think it makes the games more juicy.
Yeah, definitely. The thing was, with some of the other clubs, obviously they got that history, but
Yeah.
over the last couple of years, it's been social media rivalry.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
ain't got anything with social media like that, but
Yeah,
we really had game time rivalries. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the way they play is really physical. They just want to bully you. Obviously, we're a young team, smaller team, so
yeah.
you think you can run that bullying stuff, but it ain't running. Do you know what I mean?
Nah.
And so there was that clash, and obviously two teams of good basketball players competing at a high level. It's fun. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's really where the rivalry grew, and we played them guys like 5-6 times
yeah,
more than anybody else.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting, man. Yeah, that's really interesting. But I watched the game. It was a really good game. I think it was like literally a couple of points in it for the whole game. You know, there was no like big lead, and I think towards the end, I think you lot were just better down the stretch, and ultimately got the job done. But yeah, I remember I watched it on I think it was on BBC Red Button. Yeah, it was a really good game. But yeah, man. So yeah, let's start at the beginning. So firstly, like first time I saw you play was when you were at Reading Rockets as a under 18. I think it would have been your last year of under 18s. You actually played with a friend of mine, Daniel Martin. Don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, the point guard.
Yeah. So I think I was there with another friend watching the game. Your game against Westminster Warriors. You know when they had, the quote unquote loaded team.
Man, them man were loaded. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah. That was the first time I saw you play like live. I was there with a friend watching. Come to support Daniel and that. But yeah, I mean they were loaded, but you guys were quite loaded too. You know what I mean? Like you had quite a stacked under 18 team. What was it like then playing at Reading?
It was cool, it was an experience. What's funny is Narmo tried to get me and Adam to come join Westminster.
Yeah, no way.
While we were at Reading, like going up to that year, which is funny. That would have been crazy if we would have joined that team.
Yeah.
But yeah, that year was interesting for me because obviously I'm from Brum and I'd never lived anywhere but home at that point. And I didn't actually live in Reading. I lived in Henley-on-Thames, which is like a really nice upper end like town, you know what I mean? And that's not where I'm from. I'm from like the inner city, do you know what I mean? So moving there to like that kind of area was an adjustment for me.
Yeah.
And having to play so much basketball was crazy because they had me doing the college team because I was in the ACE program. Then I was playing under 18s. I was doing Division 1 men's at the same time.
Yeah.
Like all three teams. So that was a lot for me, but I learned how to really play basketball, and before that I'd never really ran plays. It was more so like ISO basketball. I'd never run a pick and roll before.
Yeah.
So when I got there, they were teaching me how to run Spanish pick and roll and learning all like these intricate plays. I really learned, but at first it was growing pains, man, because I just didn't like being away from home. Every time I got a chance, I was on the train back to Brum. It was tough. It was a tough adjustment, but I got there in the end.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the things with especially when you're young, like making the trip to play somewhere else or further your career somewhere else, which is a lot more common now, as you see a lot of guys, going to like Myesco and all these other academies around the country. But not just, you got to factor in the fact that you're living away from home at a young age, and also from a basketball standpoint, it's like what you were probably, the style of play you're probably used to at Birmingham, you've now gone to Reading where maybe it's a bit more organised. So you've got kind of like that adjustment, and then the living adjustment, and being a young kid essentially. So I think I agree with you, man. So from Reading, you ended up going to prep school in the US.
Yeah.
So how did that come about, and what was that experience like?
I went to Arlington Country Day. We were like ESPN top 25 or like top 15.
Yeah.
Before getting there, I wanted to go to the States when I was at Reading, but they were like, stay, blah, blah, blah. But I knew Kaylin and Creon.
Yep.
And Creon took a team of like talented players over to the States for the summer, and we played in like ESPN AAU Summer Showcase and all of that with like top universities there, high schools, prep schools, all that stuff.
Yep.
And one high school that I went to, but just for my senior year, they were there to have a look at me. But they'd known about me before, but they wanted to see if I could play against American competition, and if I was as good as, like, I looked on film and stuff, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I played really well in that tournament. I had guys like Caden was on the team, Mustafa was on the team, Gabe Aliseni was on the team, Bodrin. Yeah, it was a good team. So got the scholarship. I went to the school in September, and man, that was probably the biggest culture shock of my life. I thought moving to Reading was mad, but now I'm living in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm in the hood. When I'm in a trap. It's absolutely
really
mad. Like, street by my school where police are shook to go down, I'm even gunshots. I'm thinking this is nuts. And my school was a basketball factory. Do you know what I mean? Like, they brought in players from all over the world just for basketball. Like, forget school, like top players from Puerto Rico, like National Players of the Year. We had Sergi Baca's little cousin. We had Ennis Canada's little brother. Like, one of them type schools, do you know what I mean? Just to prepare you for the next level, really.
Yeah.
And I'd gone from being like one of the best in the country to like no one. Obviously, I knew that would be the case if I wanted to progress and really take my game to the next level. But it's different because of the American mentality as well. Like, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, but they're telling you you're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And they're not really helping you climb it, do you know what I mean? Like, if you ain't built for it, then you ain't built for it. Yeah, no,
I 100%, man. Like, I went to prep school as well, and literally that was the exact same experience. In the sense that I think a lot of players don't realize, like, America's not all the glitz and glamour it looks until you get there. Like, it's dog eat dog, man. Like, and the thing I found with America is that there's a lot of players like that aren't talented, but they'll bust your ass simply because they got that mentality of, I'm a star and I'm going to bust your ass and I'm going to be the best person in the gym. And I think that's what separates Americans and British players. I don't think players here are bred like that to be killers. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereby in America, it's like you're being a killer, but whether or not really necessarily having the skills can get you a scholarship.
Yeah, the mentality like you gotta have is crazy, and I knew from young I've got more the American mentality than the European mentality. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna just go to the States because the European thing and the way I play isn't really my style. And obviously from young I was like, I want to go America. So I was like, this has been my dream from forever. So I'm going. Yeah. Whether it works or not, I'm gonna try. And it was tough, man. Like, it was really hard. Like, you're playing against great players every day. Yeah. And you just, like, you've got to be so resilient. It's crazy to even just have the confidence to want to go back to practice. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're being told that you suck, that you're soft, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I'm playing against players that are, like, top 150, ESPN top 150, like, guys that have been recruited by all sorts of schools. Do you know what I mean? So they're thinking about the next level. They're trying to go to the league. They're trying to embarrass you. It's either step up or step out. So having that mentality and that resilience is just one thing that I had to have to be able to survive, let alone do well. Yeah. No, I honestly, like, I couldn't agree more, man. Like, I even remember when I was in the States, I played against Montrezl Harrell. You know what I mean? I heard about him being, you know, this, that, and the third, like, really good, going here. I think he'd already committed to Virginia Tech, and, like, that didn't stop him from dominating the tournament we played in. Like, he was literally, like, he'd got his scholarship, you know what I mean, he'd committed and everything, but he still played like he had a point to prove. And I think that's another thing where, you know, what we said about the mentality of Americans, it's like, you know, you get a lot of English players who maybe get comfortable with, you know, I've got my scholarship, or I've got my pro contract, you know, I'm chilling, you know, I'm in the summer, you know, just having fun. Whereas in America, it's like, it don't matter, like, forget all that, I'm still trying to kill everybody in this gym, you know what I mean? I'm trying to prove it, show everyone I'm the best, I'm the man, do you know what I mean? That's what you've got to do, because you never know who's watching. And when it's time for you to go to the league, they'll pull up stuff from, like, your junior year of who he doesn't play hard all the time. He plays down to his competition, blah blah blah. And it's just one of them things. Plus, if you're killing everyone all the time, you get more respect.
Yeah.
And that can go a really long way.
Yeah. So you finished at prep school and you ended up getting an offer to Mississippi Valley State. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But ultimately you didn't end up going. What happened? What happened there?
It's funny because that whole year I was committed to Arkansas Little Rock. Like that was one of the schools that I committed to before I went to Arlington Country Day. So that was one of the reasons I went to Arlington Country Day, because they knew the coach and it was kind of like just a place for me to go for a year before I graduated.
Yeah.
But I was also, obviously, it's a year, so you can decommit and be looked at by other schools. So did all that, and then the end of the year came. It was just a mess, man, because my NCAA clearinghouse was determined ineligible. Well, it wasn't ineligible, it was eligible with conditions. So they basically said, I can go Division 1 if I go to a school for 2 years and sit, don't practice, don't play, I can't be on scholarship, I just got to be a regular student, and then for 2 years after that, then I can play. And it was like, are you serious? Like, what university do you know that's going to pay a player to sit for 2 years? Not even a redshirt year, like 2 years.
Yeah, that's
like, it's insane, man.
That's nuts.
But, at the time, we were trying to work it out, and I was locked in. I'm trying to go Division 1, I think I'm good enough, blah, blah, blah. But if I would have went JUCO for 2 years, then I would have been eligible to go to any school in the country. Do you know what I mean? Any level, like, it doesn't matter. But I was so headstrong that I went to go Division 1 right out of high school because that's what I had dreamed. It messed me up. So I was down in Miami working out at the University of Miami. They were looking at me, working out with guys. And I was close to signing there, University of Miami, which is ACC.
Yeah.
And the coach changed, Frank Haith. He ended up getting fired and going to Missouri. There was a new coach that came in. So that was all a mess. And I went home and I was just like, what am I going to do? Because no school's trying to bring me in to sit for 2 years. This is ridiculous. So we was fighting with the clearinghouse. Like, bro, I still don't even know where my clearinghouse woman lives. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I was like, you're trying to ruin my life. Like, I've worked so hard for this. And you're just coming up with conditions because in the UK we start school before you guys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So was this to do with? Because I remember there was like some kind of confusion about GCSEs being the completion of secondary education versus finishing high school in America. Was that the situation you were in?
Yeah, the woman was trying to tell me I basically should have went straight to university at 16. I was like, what?
Yeah.
No one's doing that. You guys ain't even doing that. And then there was some confusion about A-levels and B-Tech, and obviously at this time they didn't know. And we tried to do all that stuff before I went to the States, and they were like, yeah, it'll be fine. And then I ended up getting screwed, so I was pissed. So I'm at home. The summer's passing me by now. But then I got another offer from Mississippi Valley State, and I was about to sign there. Well, I did sign there, get ready for the flight and stuff, waiting for the clearinghouse stuff to come through to see if I'm eligible, because the woman said she's going to look into some more stuff. I've already signed the scholarship, got the flight, I'm ready to go. Turns out I'm not eligible, so I couldn't go. Scholarship signed for nothing. It was just a piss take. So I'm at home from September to December, and then I've got people working for me trying to find me a new school because I'm like, I still want to go to the States, and I've missed the whole of the first semester, so if it don't happen now, I ain't really trying to just be waiting because obviously your clock's still ticking.
Yeah.
And it was just a mess, so I ended up going NAIA for a really good NAIA school in Arkansas because I was like, I need to keep playing because it's a bit late for the European route and I'm not ready to go pro, so I need to find a way. And at the time, I was still stuck up on I don't want to go JUCO.
Yeah.
I should have just gone JUCO, and then 2 years later, I probably would have signed at University of Miami anyway.
Yeah.
And then from there, you could and your life goes a complete different turn. Do you know what I mean? So that was what was going on there.
So in hindsight, do you think you should have signed with a JUCO and gone that route then? Is that what you're saying?
Hell yeah, hell yeah. But
Mm.
on the other side, I could have signed JUCO and then like broke my leg or something, and never been playing basketball ever again. Never mind being playing pro, like going into my fourth season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, you just know, like, just because you change something doesn't mean it's going to change for the better.
Yeah.
So because I can't change anything, I got to stick with the decisions I've made and be happy with them. Obviously, it's just better to think that it probably would have went worse, and everything that I've done has defined me and made me who I am today.
No, that's good that you've taken that away from what really was like a, I don't know, shitty experience, to be honest, man. But
Yeah, it was crazy, bro. It was like I felt like I wanted to quit ball. I felt like a failure, and obviously a lot of kids at the time, when you leave England to go to the States, the people that believe in you are like, yeah, he's going straight to high school, then he's going straight to D1 because I believe in him. Then you got the haters on the other side that are like, he's going to go to the States, he's going to flop, he's going to come back, or he's going to go JUCO because he's dead. You know what I mean? But they don't understand. Some of the realest hoopers in the country go JUCO.
yeah,
They either don't go to class, they just mess up in school or something. But a lot of them are Division 1 players. Do you know what I mean? Like JUCO probably is tougher than Division 1 because it's cutthroat.
yeah,
And that whole mental side, I was like, I don't want to be a failure. I want to go Division 1. That's been my dream. So that was really what overweighed my decision. If I could have really had someone on my side to really talk me through it and just be like, yo, forget what everyone's talking about. Just do what you need to do. You'll be back at D1 and you'll be more ready.
yeah.
I probably would have done that, and then who knows?
So you end up signing at John Brown University. So what was that experience like? Yeah, tell me a bit about that.
I was interested, man. I was there for two and a half years. So when I got there at Christmas, I did that semester redshirted. Then I did my freshman year and my sophomore year. My freshman year, I got freshman of the year. We was number 4 in the country. We went to the Elite 8 national tournament. Sophomore year, I got all conference. And I damn near doubled all my stats from the freshman year. It was crazy though because I didn't know what NAIA was. I just wanted to go to college in the States. And then obviously at this time I'm distraught and I'm screwing because I'm a Division 1 player. Do you know what I mean? Like when kids sign Division 1 out of high school or prep school or JUCO, you're not actually a Division 1 player until you go and do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not a pro until you played pro because you don't even know if you can handle it yet. Do you know what I mean?
You've 100%.
To be a pro, you've got the potential to be a Division 1 player. So at the time, I was like, I'm a Division 1 player and I know it and I've known it from times. When I got to NAIA, I kind of didn't have the respect for the situation and the people, and I was just pissed at my situation. Do you know what I mean? In my head, I'm just trying to just do what I got to do. If my eligibility gets clear tomorrow, I'm out of here. So you get me? Like,
yeah.
I don't want to be here, and it's just one of my only options. So
yeah,
I've just got to do it. And it was a Christian school. It was in Arkansas. I didn't visit before I went. I talked to the coach for 10 minutes once I got the offer, and then like a week later, I was at the school. It was nuts because when I got to the school, the airport sent my bag to the wrong Fayetteville. I was going to Fayetteville, Arkansas. They sent my bag to Fayetteville, North Carolina. So
oh my God.
Screw them, bro.
Yeah.
I'm already paid because I don't want to go. But
Yeah.
I'm also homesick and don't want to leave home because this is my first time going to this place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all the emotions that are all mad. And then I get there, it's like a Sunday night, it's late. I realise I ain't got my bags, I ain't got a phone that works. I finally meet with my assistant coach. He's talking about, where's your bags? I'm like, I got no bags, I got no clothes, I got nothing, I got no contact lenses, nothing. And then school starts Monday morning. So we go to the store, he gets me like some stuff for the next day. And then I wake up, and obviously, you know, when you first get there, you got to go to like the school administration sort all that out. So I'm the new kid on campus. I don't know none of my teammates. I'm just walking around, bro. I got my headphones on because I'm just like, where am I? This looks mad. I'm just downplaying everything. And then I finally get through the whole day trying to find, like, I'm that kid walking around with the map. You know what I mean? Looking down, looking up, like, yo, is that way?
Yeah.
The map and that, like, yo, it's upside down. What's going on?
With no contact lenses.
No contact. I'm like, that's so I'm like, cool. But coach is telling me, yeah, we got practice later. I'm thinking, huh? I ain't even got shoes, bro.
Yeah.
I get to practice, and they're giving my practice gear. They're giving me some brand new shoes, some Walmart socks. I've got no contact lenses, and they're talking about, yeah, practice. But obviously, I didn't know that they'd just come off a loss.
Oh, no.
The coach is a nutter, bro.
Oh, no.
He's like, he's a psycho. So, remember, I'm not used to how they play. I've been at home for 3 months, working out and playing, but not on that level or intensity. I've missed their preseason. So, they're in a different kind of shape. And, bro, I nearly died. But remember, I'm nearly dying, but I can't see. I ain't got contact lenses, bro. So, everything's just a madness.
Yes.
But they're telling me play my game, and obviously you want to make a good first impression. You want to let everyone know who you are and what you do. So I can't not shoot the shots I regularly shoot.
But you can't see the basket.
I can't see the basket. There's kind of long 30-footers and that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, because they don't know if I can shoot or not. Obviously they YouTube me, but
Yeah.
so they know what I can do, but I can't see. So when you can't see, it's mad, bro.
Yeah. Mate,
on my ass, I'm running suicides, and
yeah.
it was just miserable, man. Remember, and I still ain't got my home comforts. I ain't got my clothes.
Yeah.
None of that, and they didn't come for like 3-4 days, so I just had to make do, and that was kind of just my whole experience. Really, at that time of making do. Me and the coach didn't get along because he was like the Christian psycho, and he wanted me to kind of be his son. But I was like that defiant son, and I just weren't rocking with it. But in a mad sense, on the court we didn't get along, but we did get along. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just a turbulent relationship that was just mad. But I learned toughness. Let's just say that.
Yeah. No, honestly, like, jokes aside, man, I can imagine that being, a daunting experience at first, but probably looking back, you probably learnt a lot about yourself as a man, as a basketball player.
I broke my hip there as well.
Oh, really? Oh, I was just about to touch on that as well.
My hip, and I had my first hip surgery. That was a madness as well. So that's why I had to leave there, bro, because I felt my hip get hurt, and like I couldn't walk. And I'm telling him, yo, I can't feel my leg, like the whole leg. I'm thinking, this is mad, like. Can't feel my leg, bro. So I'm hitting it, and I'm like, okay. You know when you sleep on your arm?
Yeah.
You feel it, but you see it, and you're like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I felt my whole right leg. So then, time's gone on, and it's getting worse. I'm taking ice baths and stuff just so I can walk the next day, you get me, and get through practice. And then finally when I got X-ray, but the coach and the trainer were we're in cahoots. So because I was an important part of the team, the coach didn't want me to get seen by anybody. So the trainer was like, yo, I'm shook on my man, so I'm not going to help you.
Oh, my days.
So obviously, with my personality, I'm flipping out. I'm not going to back down. I'm going on a mad one because I'm trying to go the right route, and you guys ain't helping me, so cool, we'll go the other route. And then finally got an MRI. They basically said your hip is torn, shredded. It's like having stones in your shoe, but you're barefoot and you're just running around in them. You're just destroying the cartilage, everything, bro.
That sounds nasty. Yeah.
I got the MRI, and then that day, because my hip was so messed up, they couldn't get the needle into my hip to get the dye in there to take the MRI, so they had to take out the needle like 5 times. It's got to the point where the nurse is holding my leg, moving my leg around with the needle in there just so the dye will come out. Then we got back to school. I can't walk, obviously, because I've had a traumatic experience with a needle in my hip socket. And coach is telling me I got to play. I'm like, what?
On the bad hip?
Bro, on the hip, I've still got the dye in my hip.
Yeah.
And the trainer, for some reason, has booked the MRI on the same day as the game. Could have done it the next day. He's booked it on the same day as the game, and then the coach has got pissed off because I've said to him, the doctor said I can't play. He's like, "Oh, you're soft." Like, I haven't got none. Obviously, I've come to the game in team tracksuit. I got my glasses on. He basically said in not so many words, if you don't play, I'm sending your ass back to England.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
And this is a man of God.
Bro, a man of God.
The irony.
One of the student assistants.
Yeah.
Where's Kofi's contact lenses? I'm like, what? Why are you asking him? The student assistant asked me. I told him where they are. He's ran back to my apartment, grabbed all my contact lenses because he doesn't know which ones are which. He grabbed all of them. He's ran back to the arena. I'm thinking, why are you doing all this, bro? I'm not playing. Bro, I've ended up putting on my contact lenses. Next minute, he's got me in warm-up line, in like layup lines. I'm thinking, I can't move. And he's looking at me. He's getting more angry because I'm limping. So he's calling me soft, bro. I'm thinking, I've had 6 needles in my hip socket today.
Yeah.
And I've got dye in there, and you're talking about I'm soft. This is insane. Like, what's going on? Then he benched me for the whole first half of the game. I'm like, bench me the whole game, bro. I don't want to play. But then, to spite me, he's like, I'm going to play you a little bit in the second half because we were losing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, we're losing. Now you're going to have to play me. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I've got all this deep heat on my hip. Obviously, it's burning. So I'm like, you know what? I took like 6 painkillers. I'm like, you know what? I'm on the bike at the bench. If I'm going to have to play, I might as well be ready. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So he put me in the game, and he's basically telling me, don't shoot the ball. And I'm like, bro, you put me in the game to play my game. So I was like, you know what? Nah. So I went, I think I had like 21 points or something in like the second half.
With the bad hip.
With the bad hip, because I was pissed off, bro. Like, I forgot about the hip. And I just wanted to prove a point to him. And obviously we won. And he was upset because he wanted to win, but he didn't want me to do well. And he tried to back up his claim that I was lying. But I'm like, you can't really lie about your hip when you've actually had needles in your hip socket. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gassing. Like, but that was one of the other things that happened at JBU. We just like, I'm over this. Like, I need to leave, and I needed to get back to the NCAA because at that time I'm thinking, if I want to go pro, these pro teams don't even recognize D2 NCAA. So imagine what they're going to think about NAIA. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to get back to the NCAA. I ended up signing at a D2, like a top 5 school in D2. And yeah, man, but NAIA, don't get it twisted. That's just like JUCO, bro. I was playing against guys from like Kentucky, Ole Miss, Rutgers, and they're all like guys that are like 25, 26, bro, because the NAIA's got lenient rules. So these men have played their NCAA ball, but because they ain't got to where they want to go, they want to get some more stats or get their masters or whatever. And then you're playing against grown-ass men that are 25, 26, and you're like 19.
Yeah.
I'm talking like 6'5", 6'6" guards that are like 230.
Jesus.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a big ass guard.
Yeah, bro. I'm like 6'5", 180 at the time. Like, it taught me real toughness, man, and resilience at that time.
So you end up transferring to a D2 school. So in terms of like the standard, how would you compare the standard then? If you compared, say, the conference you were in the NAIA, or the teams you played and the teams you played at D2?
I'm quite lucky, because I was in one of the best conferences in the country at NAIA and one of the best conferences in the country for D2. So a lot of teams in my conference went up to D2 and played, and I've competed for like in nationals for D2. So that was good. It was interesting. It was interesting because Metro State, they were in our D2 conference. They won how many national championships? It's crazy. National Player of the Years, like it's tough, and they produce really good players. And we're in Colorado, so we're running over teams when we get to the national tournament because we're at like 10,000 feet. Do you know what I mean? Above sea level.
Yeah.
So to be able to perform at such a high level at that altitude is insane. But the quality of basketball was good. I found the guards were somewhat the same level, maybe a little bit better at D2. It was just the big men. A lot of the big men were a lot better at D2 because a lot of them are actually big. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like a 6'7" stretch four that's playing a 5 at NAIA.
Yeah.
They were like we had a 6'10", 6'11" big man, National Player of the Year was an actual 5 man. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I thought that was the difference. Like teams could really throw the ball into the post. Quite a lot of D2 schools were NAIAs, to be honest, that went up. So a lot of the time, if you're in a really good conference for NAIA or D2, there's not really that much difference. And some of the good teams in D2, we beat Division 1 teams all the time. Like, some of these D1 teams ain't nothing, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Against a really good organised Division 2 team.
Yeah. No doubt. So you graduate from your D2 school, and then you end up turning pro. And you sign your first. You signed your first deal in Germany. Is that right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that and your experience in Germany.
Well, it was mad, because when I graduated, by the way, I broke my hip again.
Oh, wow.
Not like 9 months after I had the first one, I did all the rehab. I did 9 months of rehab. Then I played for like 3 weeks. First game, preseason game, I tear through the sutures in my hip, can't feel my leg again. I just said to the trainers, yo, done. So I had to green shirt or get a injury red shirt, So
right.
I've done another 8 months yet, and I've had 2 hip surgeries. And that second year, I was really just trying to not get hurt, do you know what I mean? Because my hip's so damaged and weak. It's my right leg as well. And it was just a mess, bro. So I was just trying to have a year of not being hurt and managing my hip. Because I knew once I went pro, I weren't going to have a training room for like 35 students ready to give me ice baths and massage me and help me every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that year, I was just trying to I weren't in a good place mentally because I was like, I'm turning pro, I'm trying to watch out for my hip, but I'm not playing how I need to play and all what agents and teams going to be looking for. I've never played national team. It's just all a big mess. So I graduated and I'm trying to get an agent now. No agents are messing with me, bro. None. I'm thinking, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Screwing, bro. I went on no one knows this either. Like, some of my close people know, but, I went on, I think it's, the FIBA page, and I found agents. Bro, I typed up my resume, and I sent it to, every single one. I think there's, 700,
Yeah.
700 agents. I typed up my resume, and I've copied and pasted my email to every single one, but individually, though, because I don't want it to look like it's one agent, and there's 45 other names in the email. Do you know what I mean? Because I like to feel like it's personal to them.
Yeah.
700. I've got back agents. I didn't get back too many either. For how many I did, they were not messing with me, bro. And then, because obviously they're just thinking I can't sell him. And he's had injuries. I just D2, all of that mess. No national team, I can't sell him. Waste of time. And obviously, I'm learning about the business point, and obviously, I'm just sitting there now I've got no more university. I'm getting stressed. The whole summer, I'm stressed. I'm being told, stay patient, thinking, yo, this is a joke thing. And then, I have them days where I'm like, what am I working out for?
Yeah.
I've got no team. I don't belong to anyone. It's not like I'm going back to pre-season. I belong to no one. This is dead. So, throughout till July, August, I'm thinking, keep working. Then it's September, I'm thinking, my agent's just talking about stay patient, or he's talking about, almost had this figure. I'm thinking,
almost.
Sunday, I'm not hearing from him. The next minute he's like, this team's interested. I'm waiting 3-4 days, not hearing from him. I'm messaging him. He's like, that died. I've heard that so many times. I'm thinking, this is dead. So I'm working working with my at the airport with my homeboy. Got me a job because I'm just like, bro, I've got no money. I haven't been at school for like 5 months now. Summertime. I got to do something like September.
And this is back in Birmingham.
Yeah. I'm at home. And then I'm feeling like a failure, bro. I'm feeling like, yo, this is mad because they put me against a lot of guys and I'm killing them. All guys as well, bros. Like, I just need the opportunity. And it weren't coming, and it was really out of my control. Do you know what I mean? And I just had to make sure my body was the best it could be. And then I found some motivation, and then I just kept working, and then I eventually got a call from this team in Germany. Not from my agent, bro. My agent ain't doing nothing. He's done nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can fire him. Also, I'm thinking, I barely got any agents hit me up anyway. Why am I going to fire the one guy I've got? Do you know what I mean? That might be doing something, so I've kept him. Then I finally got this coach hit me up because one of my guys who's alumni at my school, he played at the same team and he did really well. So he told them that they needed me because they were looking for a shooting guard, and then I basically just signed there and I got the agent who did nothing to just look over the contract to me, and he got his agent fee, but obviously I didn't know nothing about contracts, and then I signed it, and then like a day later I was off to Germany. So
now, was this Regionella Liga when in Germany?
Yeah, it was Regional 1.
Regional 1.
At the time, Regional 1 was still considered pro. I think now it's like semi. But at the time, it was pro, and that was interesting, man, because I didn't understand when you're playing in a lot of these foreign countries, like they want you to do everything, man.
Yeah.
The pressure is nothing for someone that likes to do a lot on the court. I'm like, all right, cool, but I didn't realize how much they actually want you to do, and when things go wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah, blame the imports.
Yeah, man, and I was like, raw, this is wild because I'm not even an American, but the Americans get it first, and then whoever else is an import gets it next, and the local guys get it last. Do you know what I mean? But that was an interesting experience. Plus, I'm shooting all the shots and I'm playing how I know I can play, but the last result isn't happening. So I'm getting to the spots, I'm getting shots that I want, they're just not going in.
Yeah.
I'm being told, stay patient, they'll fall, and I'm just like, I haven't missed this many open shots in my entire life, and then I'm seeing my teammates getting fired. And if there's 5 imports and then 4 of them get fired and you're the one that's left, if we keep losing, I know what's next, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what am I going home to? I've lost my job.
Yeah.
And this is the start of my career. If he dies down now, he's probably not going to pick back up. And then, I think I had a 30 ball, right when we was about to have another team meeting with like the owners, and we won that game, and then with the help of the other guys that were on the team that got brought in, we just started making a run, and we salvaged the season.
Right. So I'm guessing you felt a lot of pressure then? Given what was happening around you in terms of like the imports getting fired left, right and centre and stuff.
It's nuts because I had a lot of pressure on myself because in my head I've always felt a step behind where I should be.
Yeah.
And with other players that I know I'm better than or just as good as, they're getting more from what they're doing. So I'm always chasing, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in my head, every shot needs to go in.
Yeah.
I need to do this because I'm trying to catch up to where I should be. That's respectable. Do you know what I mean? For all I put all of this and that. And obviously, at the time, I was living with my teammates. All the imports lived together.
Yeah.
There was like 3 of us in a big house. And the next minute, one's gone. Next minute, another one's gone. And the way that they did my first boy was they said, we're not making any changes. And then a new American dude was just at practice. I was like, okay. They were like, yeah, he's just going to practice with us.
Oh,
like, okay.
No way.
Next minute, game day comes. They're like, yeah, we're just going to see how he plays in today's game. Don't worry about it. You're not fired or anything. We're just going to see how he does with the team. 2 days later, my boy gets fired, and next minute he's getting told he's flying home. I was like, oh my God, this is mad.
I'm glad we were able to talk about this because there are young players every day who want to aspire to be professional basketball players and are oblivious to this side of the game. You have to. With that comes a lot of responsibility. When you have to perform and then there's pressure on you. And I don't think everybody who plays ball is built for that. Like that's the honest truth.
Nah, a lot of them aren't built for it, man.
Yeah.
Like basketball is like probably 60% mental.
Exactly.
And if you're heading in the right place, it's going to be tough. And
Yeah.
you still got to outdo your competition.
Yeah. No, very true, man. Very true. So you play at Germany. You end up signing. You end up coming home. Well, sort of. And signing with the Glasgow Rocks.
That lead up to that was nuts because after I did Germany Regio, that's when I made the GB seniors.
Oh yeah.
For the first time like in my entire life, so that was like a huge accomplishment. That was really nice. Just to have some recognition. I think it was crazy because the second half of the season in Germany, I just didn't care no more. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I don't care about anything anymore. If this shot goes in, great. If it doesn't go in, cool. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I'm just gonna play ball, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm having 40, then I'm having 50, then I'm having 30, then I'm having 40s again, then I'm having 50. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, wow. Cooking. Then I've got on the national team. I've done Eurobasket, blah blah blah. Gone to Spain. That didn't work out. I was in lead gold. That didn't work out. Then I was just like, this basketball thing is long, man.
Yeah.
I was in lead gold, but then I ended up on a EBA team, an EBA team.
Yeah.
Because my agent didn't want me to leave Spain.
Yeah.
Like you got to stay playing in Spain because that way you'll get picked up by another team. Blah blah blah. I'm like, yo, I don't want to be here, man. Ever. Like, I've just come back from Eurobasket, and obviously because I've just come back from Eurobasket,
yeah,
I'm all over the news. People are in my face all the time, thinking I'm going to be the savior of their team.
Yeah.
I want to play. I'm miserable. I'm in a small town. Oh, I was just like, oh god.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting hit up by Tony Garbaletto. He was at Glasgow.
Yep.
They needed to bring a new player in to help them really make some strides, and then I was like, yeah, I'll just go. I don't want to play in the BBL, but Commonwealth Games was coming up, and I heard they were only taking BBL players.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, bet I'm going to go to a good BBL team, and that means I'll be on the big show for the England team. So I ended up going, and then I went to Commonwealth and all that.
Yeah. So glad we've actually got to that. So talk to me about the Commonwealth Games. You played on a pretty, on paper, what was a pretty loaded England team. But results. Some will say you guys kind of underachieved.
Definitely underachieved.
Yeah. So talk to me about that experience and going to the Gold Coast, as they say.
Yo, that place was absolutely amazing. One of the best experiences of my entire life. It's actually like being at the Olympics. The people I've spoken to at the Olympics, they said it's like up there, do you know what I mean? Especially because of the location and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, the profile of athletes, it was insane, man. But at that time, I was inches away from quitting basketball. Like, I didn't want to play anymore. Like, I was miserable. I hated my time up in Glasgow. I was like, nah, I just ain't doing this no more. So that was like a saviour for me, do you know what I mean? I got to be in the sun for one. Being in Glasgow, the grey overcast was just killing my mood. I was hating basketball. And then to go all the way to the Gold Coast was a saviour, man. And it really helped me, my mood. And being with like a great group of guys that just wanted to play. And obviously it was an intense group, so we just got to banter, all of that. And this was my first time making any England setup in my life. Like, I didn't do any juniors at all, so it was kind of like, I've never done juniors. I got cut from like under 15 England, and then the first time I make the England team, I'm at the Commonwealth Games. That's like one of the highest achievements for an England international. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%.
I was super gassed and proud of myself because it just showed the testament of all that hard work of not being good enough when you're young, and then now I'm better than a lot of them young players. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they stopped working, and I kept working. So
Yeah.
that was just amazing. Basketball-wise, I had a pretty good Commonwealth Games individually.
Yeah, no, you did. You did. I followed it quite closely. I think I watched all of the England games. Yeah, you did. I remember you playing really, really well, man. Probably the standout of the team.
And to me, that was a surprise because when I was at GB, I didn't really get to play. So
Yeah.
I'm questioning, am I good enough on an international level? In my head, I think I am. But you got to go prove it. And now you got the chance to prove it. Do you know what I mean? So am I going to do it? And then getting a chance to do it and actually performing was just amazing because I knew how much work. And remember, a lot of people are just telling me I'm a good basketball player. They don't know that I'm playing on one hip.
Yeah. Oh, so your hip was still bad at this point as well.
Yeah, like it's never going to be 100. Like I've had 2 hip surgeries, like big ones. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
never going to be 100. But just the fact of people telling me I'm a good basketball player when I compete with people at a healthy and high level is all that I've ever wanted. Do you know what I mean? Because I can't do much about my hip. Like I can't do anything about it. So the best I can do is for people to just not think I'm good for one leg.
Yeah. No, that's. Yeah.
Yeah, but that team, we did underperform, man. Like we had so much potential, but people don't understand. The other teams that we played were good, man. But the Scotland game, we just didn't turn up. And what pissed me off most about that game was, remember, I'm playing in Scotland at the time, bro.
Oh yeah, all your peers.
I've got to go back to Scotland after this. Scotland.
Yeah.
The only game they want to win is the England game. They don't care about the rest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're like, that's Scotland. We don't care about Scotland. I'm like, now we need to care about them because I'm coming out for a medal for 1.
Yeah.
2, I live in Scotland and I'm not trying to listen to my teammates and the fans run their mouth. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And we didn't turn up, didn't perform, and we lost. And that's what happens when you don't prepare properly and you underestimate people. So I'm kind of glad we lost because that's a lesson that we needed to learn.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like watching it was essentially the shock of the tournament. Like, do you know? I didn't think it would be an easy game for you guys because obviously they had Kieran Achara playing, they had I think Ali Fraser playing. Like they had some really good players, you know.
Who's GB captain?
Yeah.
We've got Gareth Murray, who's like
Gareth too.
GB and like 3 Eurobaskets, bro. Like
Yeah.
they've had a good team, and their coach was one of the best coaches in the NBL in Australia, like the top league. I've been practicing with these guys. They've had their training camp in Glasgow for like 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
practicing with their team, and we had like 2 weeks or 3 weeks together. And I'm like, they're prepared for us. They might not pass the eye test, but they can hoop, bro.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. So, just to touch briefly, so after your experience in the Commonwealth Games, your experience at Glasgow, you make 2 pit stops, one in Switzerland and one in Sweden, playing in the first division of both countries.
Iceland as well.
Oh, in Iceland as well. Yeah. Was this is all the same season, or was this across?
Yeah, I started off in Switzerland, then I signed in Iceland in January, and then I signed in Sweden in like February.
So what was the reasons like for you? I guess bouncing from one team to another. Like
in Switzerland, it wasn't really the right fit. They've got rules in place of how many Swiss have to be on the floor at a certain time. Like I think it's 3.
Right.
And we had 3 Americans and me. So if you're gonna go into a situation like that, you have to look at who are the good local players and what position are they. Because
Yeah.
if they're good, remember they have to be on the floor like it's league rules. So on that team we had good wings, and they brought me in, but they weren't sure with how good the wings would be. And then the wings were playing well, and they were basically just like, we need you, but it's not really the right fit for you, and what kind of situation do you want to be in? So I was like, I'm here to play, because not playing he's going to screw me over, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
obviously they were great in helping me find a new situation and getting out of that situation. But yeah, like obviously every player wants to play, and I'm not living in a foreign country to not play.
No, makes sense.
Yeah, that was that. So I ended up coming home.
Touching quickly on that domestic rule, I guess, in Switzerland, do you think it's something that hampers the league, and do you think it's something that would benefit the BBL if the BBL were to introduce something similar, whereby, I don't know, 3 British players have to be on the floor at all times, or something similar?
It's tough because, like, Switzerland do it because I think it helps. It helps each country with like their development.
Yeah.
I mean, so the lower leagues in Germany, like I think Pro B do it, and like Regio, I'm not sure Pro A do it, but Pro B do it because if you have younger German guys that want to play at home and you develop them, then they're playing against pros, they're gonna get really good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot faster than playing 5 minutes a game at the end of a blowout.
Yeah.
And you need them in the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As time goes on, you're going to do really well. Like some of these BBL teams in Germany have like Pro B teams that have all German youngsters because it helps their development. And then 2 years later, you're wondering why they can all play at high-level Europe basketball because obviously they've been playing pros and actually playing from young. So there's that side, but then you've got leagues like France and Germany BBL where they don't have rules like that because they're classed as like professional and it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Teams are just trying to win. So it depends on how you want to look at a league and if you want to really use it as a development. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool somewhat only because I've been to certain places and that rules bit me in the ass. So being in a country that's just open to everybody else, and like you've got certain coaches that only love Americans or only love Europeans.
Yeah.
You've got really good British players that have chosen to come home that are probably just as good as or better than these imports, but the coach doesn't want to rock with the British player because he's invested more money into the European, or he's gonna have questions from the administration saying, oh yeah, you're paying the British guy, but why are we paying so much for this guy and he's not playing 38 minutes a game? Do you know what I mean? Like all that dumb politics comes into it. So it's a tough one. Obviously, I'm a British guy, so if the BBL are going to do it, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
It's just one of them ones.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I've heard about that rule in other countries as well, and I've always thought that like I personally think it does more harm than it does good to the league as a whole. I think obviously on one hand, you know, you like you said, you give more opportunities to domestic players, but I think it kind of gives them a bit of a spoon. It kind of spoon feeds them a bit in the sense that, you know, you don't have to essentially be as good to step on the floor, and I think that's never usually a good thing. You know what I mean? I think the guys who are good enough should be playing. You know what I mean? Regardless of, you know what I mean? I think a better way to approach that is to have limits on imports. So rather than having 4 or 5 imports on your team, you cut it to 2. Do you know what I mean? Who can play whenever and however. But on the other hand, like this year, I had a conversation with a friend of mine about we were talking about the NBL 1 Team of the Year. I don't know if you saw it, but an observation from me was that all 5 players were American or non-British, which I think is bad for a league. I think having an all-league team or first team where there's no domestic players, I think that says a lot about the domestic players. You know what I mean? Credit to the non-British players that were picked, but not having one player, I think it looks bad on the domestic players.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. It's kind of some people might look at it like, well, if the Americans or the non-British are the best players in the league, then the British players need to fix up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it could just be, is it biased towards non-Brits?
Yeah, I only had one British name that came to mind that was eligible, that could have been in that team of the year. I couldn't think of any others. So in that respect, I had to say that, like, like I said, the British players got to step it up. And it's like in previous like Division 1 seasons, you've had guys like, Tintin Watts, Danny Carter, you've had guys like of that level of like British players who I think could be playing the BBL. You know what I mean? You've had those kind of players. And then this isn't a disrespect to, British players in Division 1. You know what I mean? I'm British, and I play in Division 1 as well. But it's like, I don't think it's good for the league if we don't have British players that are good enough to make those teams. And I'm not saying put one in there just for the sake of putting one in there. I think it's an issue that somehow needs to address. Maybe it's just a seasonal thing. Maybe this is a one-off. Last year I think we had one British player in it, who was Raf Thomas Edwards.
Yeah.
He plays at Bristol. Yeah.
Going at it, boy. That Bristol boy.
That Bristol boy. Yeah.
We've been going at it, man.
Yeah.
Kofi as well.
Yeah. But he was I think he was in the team of the year last year. And obviously he's made the jump up to the BBL. But then on the other side, you've got a lot of players who are in Division 1 making the jump to the BBL. A lot of British players, like Raf's one, Lewis Champion's another. You've got a lot of players who are now making that step up. So, I mean, it's a two-way thing. You could argue that, because the British players are getting better and are making, moves to the BBL and abroad, maybe that's why Division 1 is suffering as a result.
You know what I think? As well?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of British kids, when they see an American, they defer to them.
Yeah.
Like, before they've even stepped on the court, in their head it's like, oh, they're American, I'm going to be their backup, or I'm not me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hate it. I absolutely hate it with a passion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not anybody's backup, but like mentally, like skill-wise, if that's how it is, then I'm going to work my ass to not be their backup. Do you know what I mean? But that takes time. And there's always someone better than you. But a lot of British players defer to people from other countries, and it's even before it's proven. So if you don't have that mindset of I'm not as good as an American, I'm not as good as a European, then you're not going to be. Do you know what I mean? You're already on the back foot. But if you think that's just another basketball player, to be honest, I don't care. It could be from Timbuktu.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm going to do my thing, and we'll let it be proven.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you already, before the season started, they're American, they're this, they're that, I'm their backup.
Yeah.
You're not even going to be close.
Yeah.
You're just going to be, you know what I mean? So
you're not even going to make your starting five. Yeah. No, I think I agree, man. I think there definitely is like a complex in a sense. You get an American on your team and now you're thinking, that's the guy. But like, I mean, I've played with Americans for all my adult career, you know what I mean? And it's like, there are some really good ones. There are some, that come here, that dominate, either whether that's D1, whether that's BBL, it happens. But there are also a lot of bummy Americans, you know what I mean? To put it like that, there are some bummy Americans or some average, mediocre Americans that come into the country, you know what I mean?
I think it's mentally, man. Like, it really starts mentally.
No, it's true.
There might be some Americans that are killers. Like Matt Scott this year was absolutely tearing the league up. But as a British player, you can't back down from him.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Learn from him and go at him, and by default, you're going to get better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you've got any cojones about hopefully you just don't let what worked 3 players ago work again. Do you know what I mean? You're going to improve, and over time, if you have that kind of mentality, that's how you get better. And you got to measure yourself against the best, not against the guys that aren't that good. You got to measure yourself against the best.
Yeah.
And it hurts the ego when you're not as good as the best.
Yeah.
You've got to do that to raise your game. Do you know what I mean? Over time, and then you'll end up in the D1 team of the year. So
that brings you all the way to Worcester. And like we spoke about at the beginning, you know, signing essentially for, you could say, your hometown club. You know, I think Worcester, Birmingham's 45 minutes away, if that. So yeah, just in terms of this season, you know, we had a lot of talk on social media about, you know, how the season ended and Glasgow wanting to claim the league and people telling them to shut up, and, you know, a lot of that. How do you think the league would have panned out had the games had been completed? Like, who do you think would have won the league?
I think we would have won the league. We were on the way to OT, man. That's
You
how
think?
I see it. Like, oh, for sure. For sure. I think it would have been us in Glasgow in the final.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, and we've lost to Glasgow twice. Yo, don't get it twisted. Glasgow are good, man.
Yeah.
Like, Glasgow are good. They're a great coach. They've got every position locked down.
Yeah.
And they know how to play together. Like, they're a really good team, man, and they adjust really well. And they play defense.
Yeah.
And they play at their own speed. Don't get it twisted. Glasgow are good. They probably would have won the regular season, to be honest. It would have been out of them, Leicester and Lions, because Lions were rocking as well, but I would have saw us in Glasgow in the final,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, I think the annoying thing this year is that I think the BBL was as competitive I've ever seen it, you know? Like, you had yourselves who won the cup, you know, Newcastle, albeit given the circumstances, won the trophy. You can never count Leicester out, you know what I mean? Like, Rob's probably one of the best coaches the league's ever seen, and he's always got a talented team. You've got teams competing, man, and it's like, usually, you know, over the years where I followed the BBL, it's always usually been, you know, Leicester, Newcastle, London last year.
They were good.
Yeah, you know, we had the Royals for their brief season and a half. So yeah, man, I think it's a shame, to be honest, that the Corona came and, you know, deprived us fans of what could have been, you know, one of the most competitive BBL seasons we've seen in a while. But, you know, yeah. To touch on your sort of life outside of basketball or away from the court, you're quite a talented artist. Some of our listeners might not know. So just quickly, like, when did you realise, firstly, that you could draw?
It's funny because, like, I've been into everything. Like, basketball was probably the last thing that I got into. So
Yeah.
I used to swim for West Midlands, and I did Kung Fu, and I was like...
Kung Fu?
High up there. Yeah, Kung Fu. I was like,
Yeah.
high up there in belt. But I don't play music, so I used to play the drums for my mum's church.
Yeah.
And I found basketball, and at that time, obviously, I loved art, and I was doing all that at school, but it got to the point where I was like, I really, really like basketball now. The swimming thing is a bit long because they're telling me I got to go to the swimming baths before school. I got K-rolls at the time, like swimming caps and cocoa butter and that every day. It's just long. So I was like, nah, I'm not doing that no more. Cut off the music and everything else. And obviously, while I've been playing ball, I've been doing art.
Yeah.
Doodling, like I love spray painting and all that stuff. And I'm a really colourful guy. Like, I love colourful clothes, pink, purples, all of that. So I've been into that, but only now have I actually put it out there for other people to know that I'm into it.
Yeah.
So I've always done it, but it really started just because I like having stuff that I want that might not be on the market. So if there's some, like, I think I made a biker jacket first.
Yeah.
Which was really colourful, and I was just like, I want a colourful biker jacket, and if it's not one on the market that I can afford, then why not just make something myself that can make personable to me? Then I made some shoes, Balenciagas, and then it kind of just grew from there, and I was like, there's a lot of stuff that I actually want that's not out there, and if I just do the research and plan it a little bit, then I can just go make it myself, and then everything's just grown from there.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. But yeah, man. Thank you for being a guest on the episode today. I wish you all the best with on and off the court, and yeah, man. Appreciate it. No, if you got any social medias that you wanna plug, or anything you're doing that you wanna plug.
My Twitter is Keezus4, which is KEEZUS 4. My Instagram, Dejkof, like DEJKOAF. And if you want to follow my art and customization, that's Bespoke Kofi. So Bespoke, BESPOKE .KOFI. So that's where you can find me.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kofi. And like I said, all the best